Unsolved.
Hello everyone, and thanks for watching. This video is about what Patsy and John said happened that terrible morning, and it has my opinion about what they say. So it's more an outline with commentary about what happened. On the morning of December 26, 1996, at about 5:25 a.m., John Ramsey got out of bed and he headed over to his bathroom to get ready. And then just a few minutes later, Patsy got out of bed and she headed over to her own bathroom to put on her clothes from the night before and put on some makeup and do her hair. Now, as Patsy and John tell the story, they were not in a rush that morning because they didn't know it was going to be a bad morning. After this, Patsy went to the second floor, didn't go to JonBenet's bedroom, but went over to the laundry area there, the sink, and messed with JonBenet's red jumpsuit. There was a stain in it, and she was trying to get it out. Now, Patsy has told different stories of how or what happened that morning when she came down those spiral staircase. So I'm just going to kind of summarize what she said. She came down the spiral staircase to get breakfast ready and start the coffee machine. And she came down the stairs and she noticed the 3 pages on the 3rd or 4th step. And then she walked past him, stepped over though, and went to the very bottom of the stairs, turned around, leaned over, and read the ransom note. She stated that she didn't pick it up or touch it, and she read to the part where it says, "We have your daughter." Shortly after that, ran upstairs to the 2nd floor. But she's told this story in different ways.
I just started downstairs. There were these pieces of paper lying on one of the runs of the stair. So I kind of turned around and looked at it to see what it was and started reading the first couple lines. It just kind of wasn't registering, but somewhere it said, "We have your daughter." It clicked, your daughter, and I just bounded back up the steps and threw her door open, and she was not in her bed.
Now, there's a lot of issues with what Patsy described, because why did the ransom note just happen to be facing Patsy when she turned around to read it? It could have been a little bit to the side or it could have been turned around backwards, but it was facing perfectly so she could read it. Then as she came down the stairs, she would have had to step over the ransom note, and that wouldn't have been an easy thing to do. And then when she bolted back up the stairs, she might have had trouble getting past the ransom note. And why didn't the ransom note float off the stairs when she ran back up past the ransom note? Now, as I describe what happened, I'm going mainly by the police interviews that Patsy and John gave. And so she pushed open the door, looked at JonBenet's bed, and she wasn't there. And then one time she said she screamed for John immediately. And then another time she said that she exited JonBenet's room went to the stairs that lead to the third floor and screamed for John to come down. And then John heard the scream and knew something terribly was wrong. And then he ran downstairs in his underwear, and only his underwear. And Patsy handed him the ransom note. But during other times in their police interviews, they can't recall when Patsy handed the note to John or if she ever did that. Now, Burke recalled that Patsy entered his room, turned on the light, looked around, said something like, "Oh my gosh, where's my baby?" And then she left. And then John came in, turned off the light, and then left. And then sometime later, a police officer came in and turned on his flashlight and looked around, and then he left. Now, at some point, as the story goes, John told Patsy to call the police. And so I'm not sure if that was on the second floor or the first floor, because they've given two accounts of when that happened. And then there's the issue of how John got the ransom note in his hand, but then he went over by the glass door there and laid out the 3 pages on the floor and got down on the floor and read the ransom note quickly. And as John read the ransom note, Patsy dialed 911 and spoke to the operator.
Oh my God, does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says SBTC. Victory.
Now, according to John, he was over there reading the ransom note while Patsy was on 911, and she recalls SBTC. So, first there's the issue, did she even read that part of the ransom note? And then second, if she did read the ransom note, how could she recall the initials so easily, SBTC? Now look at this photograph. It seems that John Ramsey needs reading glasses to read. Yet, how would he have his glasses? He just ran down the stairs in his underwear and was reading the ransom note on the floor. Did he keep his reading glasses in his underwear? Now here's a soundbite from the 911 call. Yes, that was it. That was Patsy breathing heavily. Let's hear it one more time.
What do we do? I don't, I mean, you're just, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. You're just insane. I mean, you can't think fast enough.
Now at this point, Patsy calls her good friend Barbara Fernie, and I think John Fernie answered the phone. She spoke to Barbara, and then she hung up and called Priscilla White, and someone else answered the phone and handed the phone to Priscilla White, and she told Priscilla White to get over to her house right away. She needed her. Now the person that should have been out of breath, in my opinion, is John Ramsey, because while Patsy's on the phone, he went upstairs to JonBenet's room, clenched his fist or something, and then he went up to the third floor and got dressed, and then he came downstairs and met the policeman in the front hallway area there, all within 5 minutes. Now a few minutes later, John Fernie parks in the back alleyway and walks up to that glass door and looks through it and sees the ransom note and reads a little bit of it. And he gets to the Ramsey's house within 10 minutes when he lives about 10 miles south of the Ramsey's house. So here's some questions for you. Do you think it's unusual that Patsy didn't pick up the ransom note and she was able to cross by and step over the ransom note going up and down the stairs? Do you think it's odd that she couldn't remember if she handed the ransom note to John and John couldn't remember if he received the ransom note from Patsy or how he got the ransom note? Or that Patsy wore the same clothes as the night before? Or that Patsy knew the initials SBTC when she told the operator that's how it closed? And do you think it's possible before the 911 call that Patsy kind of ran around a little bit and got herself out of breath and then dialed 911? And what do you think about John? When Patsy screamed for John, did he just happen to be in his underwear? He wasn't on the toilet. He wasn't in the shower. He wasn't in the middle of shaving. And that he ran down immediately when he heard Patsy scream. Wasn't that a little convenient? Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and I think the next episode of Unsolved might have another DNA test in it. And there was something else that I was working on that I can't remember right at this moment. So I'll see you the next time.